Okay, in previous session we have seen how to fetch multiple records for individual properties. Okay, in today's session, okay, similar concept only, but how to fetch multiple records for list of properties or group of properties. Okay, so at a time, if you want to include all the list, say whenever you include all the list of properties in a single layout, okay, means within a single layout, and that too using repeating layout only we can do this thing. Okay, using a repeating layout. So at a time, if you want to display all the list of records for all the list of properties, then we can go with the repeating layout. Okay, so first of all, from the section we'll configure this repeating layout, and I'm going to add properties. Okay, then same procedure. So how we did for the individual property, so we'll create a data page here and we'll create an activity. Okay, so then we have to configure this data page inside this layout settings. Okay, because in the previous session we did for individual property separately, then the data page will configure at property level. For each property we'll configure, but in this scenario for list of properties, when you take in the repeating layout settings only, directly from the layout settings we can configure this data page rule. And we have some information regarding the data page and activity here. So in this scenario, so whenever you get a list of properties and using repeating layout, when you do this setup, see here there is one slight change when you compare with the previous session. See, data page always will be created inside a data class only. Okay, and in the last session we created activity inside the data class. But if you take this scenario, fetching multiple records for a group of properties or list of properties, see here in this scenario we are going to, yesterday's session we have taken database structure as page. Okay, because directly within the same page for separate properties we will configure the data page, but this time the database structure will be list. Database structure will be list we have to take. Okay, so whenever we use the database structure as list, so we cannot create activities inside the data class. Okay, so we have to create activity rule from the, there is one class called, so already it is defined the help also, it will be there. If you want you can refer, open a class called code-PEGA-list. So there is some predefined class is there in PEGA. So whenever you want to create anything related to the list, and in this scenario whenever we use the database structure as list, then activity rule we have to create inside this class. So yesterday's session both data page and activity created inside the data class, but whenever we perform this scenario using the repeating layout, the activity rule we have to create inside code-PEGA-list class. So we have to open this class from class explorer, and inside this code-PEGA-list class we have to define activity rule, and data page will define directly from the data class only. Okay, from the data model data page will define, but this activity only in this scenario, not only whenever you get this scenario. So we have to define activity from the code-PEGA-list class. Okay, according to the PEGA standards, whenever the database structure is list, we have to define the activity inside the list class. Okay, so before that, first of all I will configure the layout inside a section, then we will proceed with the data page rule and activity rule. And I am using the same data table, and coming to the user interface, I am using the same home screen section I am using. Within that section, okay, how the records will display means, so it will display all the records in grid format. Okay, my requirement is I want to display all the records in grid format. So here in the repeating, some types will be there. So I'm going to use repeating grid layout, and I'm displaying all the records for the properties whatever I'm adding inside this layout. So first of all, open home screen section. Inside this section only I'll configure the new layout. Okay, I'm having some space here, right? So I'm going to use this space. So, and I will configure the layout here, repeating layout. Okay, so already if you remember in the early starting sessions, so we divide the grid into two parts, left side and grid 1 and grid 2. So in the second grid I'm going to configure this new layout. So what I can do is I cannot directly add the repeating layout. Okay, so I'm going to use a dynamic layout. So first of all, we have to define dynamic layout 2.2. And inside this I'm going to add this repeating layout. Inside this 2.2 I'm going to select, because inside dynamic we can include repeating layout. Select repeating, and the type of layout will be grid only. So I'm selecting that one. Click on OK. Okay, so there is something called action top and action bottom. Means in the runtime, if you want to add any rows or anything or delete any rows, so we can use this option. But here I'm not adding any rows in the runtime. So directly I want to, in read-only format, I want to display all the records. Whatever the records gets updated in the database, same records I want to display here. Okay, I don't want to give this action. So in the action top I'm deleting the default action. If you go to settings, some default icons is set here, right? Just to delete them. Click on OK. So now we are going to use this space. Okay, repeating grid. So here we have to define the property names, and first of all we have to configure the label for the property. Then once after adding the data page inside layout settings, then we can configure the names of properties. So first of all, set label, we have to set the label for the property. So I'm using the same properties from the data class, network operator, insert column after this. Okay, here in table format all the columns will be there, so we have to insert column after. Next here I'm giving recharge type. Then circle. So for all these properties, what are the records we have in the data table? So all these records I have to display here in grid format. Okay, I have only already set the label for the properties. So once we configure the data page in the if you go to layout settings, in the layout settings we will be having the source. So from the layout settings source we have to configure data page in the next step. So here we have a source option, data page. In the next step we'll define that one. So meanwhile we cannot save this property, so sorry, we cannot save the section because repeating it until we configure the data page or any source we have to define compulsory, so otherwise it will not allow you to save the section. So just keep it like that. Meanwhile in the next step we are going to configure the data page rule. Same whatever the things we have taken yesterday, but only thing is in the structure we'll use the structure type as list here. In this scenario we are going to take the structure as a list, and defining the activity will be from the code-peg-list class. So same methods we will use obj browse only, but the number of properties, so we are going to add all the properties this time, but only changes. So database structure will be list and activity will be created under code-peg-list class. So first of all, already we have the data class. In last session we defined the data class to the pinned classes list. So directly from this class we can configure the data page rule. So open data page. Give some name for the data page and this is the name of the data page. By default the prefix for this is d underscore load rec info. Click on open. Here take the structure type as list, we are loading the data from the data class. So edit mode is read only, scope is thread only, and in the source option we are going to take activity. So I cannot save until I give the activity rule name here. So in the meanwhile in the next step, so activity we have to define in this class. So how to open that class? From the class explorer we can open any classes. Inside application explorer, from the class explorer select code-peg-list class. You can see the class name here, so it is available in the class explorer. Select that one and click on pin option. So again we'll select the work class, right? So just pin this class. Click on pin. Again select work class. Now under this class we will create this activity rule. So you can find the information, just open the obj browse method or open this class in the help option. You can find the information related to this. So anything related to the list, structure as list, and whenever we use obj browse method, so those activities we have to define in the according to the PEGA standards. So these activities we have to take in the code-peg-list class. So whenever we use obj browse method, so maximum, so whenever the type is list, we will define inside the code-peg-list class only. So inside this class, so same rules will be there. Just create an activity. same process. No need to define any pages and classes. Directly method name is obj browse. Expand this method. Okay, and page name, coming to the page name, it's mandatory thing. So we have to configure the data page name. Data page name is, copy this one, and class name is data class. Okay, so we don't have some maximum records, we have only 5 or 6 records are there. And directly in the field option we can configure, means we have added 4 properties. Okay, so one after another we can add all the property names. Click on dot option, then only you'll get the names. If you click on down arrow, you'll not get the property names. Okay, if you have page names, we can get. So directly in this scenario we have to click on dot option, then it will load all the property names. Okay, so I'm not giving any sorting, so whatever the order it is there, it will display in that order. So save this property, save this activity. So after saving, we will configure this activity inside the data page. So select the activity name, select activity name. So save this data page. Okay, so once test the data page, go to actions, go to run. Okay, once execute the data page rule. Okay, so first of all it will display a network operator, and so other records it will show here. Okay, so it is loading all the records. So but in the runtime it will display all the records in grid format. So now go back to the screen. Now from this repeating layout settings, okay, go to grid repeat layout settings. Okay, not dynamic layout, directly inside this we have grid repeat, right? So open this grid repeat layout settings. Okay, in the data source select data page. In the drop down select the name of the data page. Okay, so click on OK. So the page how it should display and all, by default it will be there. Click on OK. So now we have to configure property names. Previously only label is configured. Okay, now we have to configure in the field option, we have to configure the property name. Okay, go to settings, click on down arrow, you'll get the property names. save this section. Okay, so now in the runtime we'll check. Already we have flaction flow config, we already configured a case, so directly run this case. Okay, you can see here, see all the records it will display like this in a grid format, in a read only. All the records will be, see these records, whenever any record in the database it is updated, it will automatically update here also, because so database will refresh the data from the database. Okay, whenever any record is updated any new record is added, so it will update here. Okay, but if you want only, suppose if you have more than 10 records or 20 records are there, means then we can give the maximum number of records you want to display here. We can set in the layout settings. Suppose if you have more than, so right now we have only some less than 10 records only, so by default it will display some, so first 10 records like that it will display. So if you have more than number of records, means so we can set the page format and how many number of rows you want to display. By default we can display here, so maximum by default will be 20. If you want only 10, means you can give 10. So like this, because we cannot give more than 20, because it will be like 30 rows, means in a single page it will take so much length and space it will take. So what are the top records or maximum records you want to display, so we can set, or based on condition if you want to display any records we can set. Okay, so like this, if you set the number of rows, fixed number of rows, means it will only display the first 20 records only, it will display. So like that, so we can set the conditions within the level and display them within the same page in read only format. In a grid format it will display all the records. Once again run the case, same thing. Okay, so this is one way, so where we can fetch multiple records for a list of properties. Okay, so anytime, so loading the data from the database, okay, so we can use data page rule, or alternatives. So in the coming sessions we will use that one, that is using report definition also we can load the data in a similar way, same process. So in the report definition also we will configure property name, automatically it will generate the data, means based on the optimization, property optimization we have to do for that also. And automatically, so whenever we selected any property, automatically we have to define the report definition in the property settings or layout settings. So based on that it will display records in the from the database. Okay, same procedure, but the rule name will change. Okay, but maximum we'll use data page only. Report definitions also we can reuse, like similar to the data page, but report definition means it will generate a data report, and if you want to load the same data report into the property drop down, we can also configure the report definition in the settings, layout settings or property settings. So but you will get in the, I'll show in the coming sessions about this one. Okay, so next thing we'll see. Okay, till here or in previous sessions, tell me any questions. Okay, when you submit it will not show immediately, right? So after updating the data in the database it will show. Yeah, next time it will show. Okay. No, no, based on the order in the data table, based on the primary key it will display all the records, right? So based on the ID or based on the primary key property, so in ascending it will only will take, so what are the records entered in the database, so based on that what are the order you entered in the database, so the first order, first the records what are we entered, right? The first 10 records it will display them. Or else, okay, or not like that. Okay, for example here network ID is there, network ID is a primary key, right? So generally based on the primary key property, default sorting will be there. For the primary key property there will be default sorting will be there. Actually this is integer property anyway, so even though if you didn't add any sorting also, by default sorting will happen for the primary key property, that is ascending order will be there. So on that basis also it will display the records. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, previous time, yes. Okay, but you didn't configure the network ID, right? Generally if but here in this scenario, okay, but in this scenario while adding all the properties we didn't define the network ID property, so no problem here. So what are the records we have in the database, what are the order we have, based on the first property network operator is there, right? So based on the network operator property to load all the records, because this is the first property, right? So by default based on the network property, yeah. See, that's what, see if you want to, yeah. So first of all it will display the first set of records I'm saying. So anyway whatever you take, you know, if you load second time or third time, so but if you want to give condition, give a condition I'm saying. So there is any logic or any condition, only these values you want to display means we have option to add a condition there within the property, then you can add a condition based on your requirement. So by default it will only display the first set of records only to display. So in this table what are the first set, so starting, so based on the network property it will display all the records here. So because we didn't take a network ID, if you have taken the network ID then it will automatically ascending order it will take, okay, because it is a primary key property, right? So and based on the ascending order it will display, but here, so based on network operator property it will display all the records. Okay, so you can check, you try to enter some n number of records and you can check, so how you are how it is displaying them. Yes, still, yes. You want to display data only for, so then you'll define a condition value only, whenever you select value only you will select Airtel, then it will only display for the Airtel records it will display. So in the network operator we'll have some conditions will be there, so value only by default it will display all the values, so we have to manually define, so value for only for, so whenever the value is Airtel only display those records means we have to set a condition for that. Yeah, I'll show in the next sessions. So within the activity only at property level we can add condition. Okay, so any questions? Okay, so then now we'll move to the decision rules. So first of all, so some important category is a decision category, so which is related to conditions. So different types of set of conditions will be there, and so under this means, so different types of conditions means, so we have different types of rules. All rules are based on conditions only, so each type of rule is like a different type of format. Okay, but all are conditions only, but every condition will have a so different set of format will be there. Okay, so if you open any rule from the decision category, all the rules are based on condition rules only. So all the rules are condition rules only. So each condition contains a different settings and different parameters. Okay, so first of all, decision category itself is divided into two types of rules. Okay, so we used to call it as decision rules is one type of conditions, and under the decision category only we have some other set of rules. Those are called as declarative rules. Declarative rules. So first of all, so what are the types of conditions we have under the decision rules means? We have some conditions like decision table, a decision tree, map value, and when condition. So these are all the conditions under the decision rules. And under declarative rules, some important conditions are declare expressions, declare constraints, and declare on change. Okay, so first of all, under the decision category only, so what are decision rules? Difference between the decision rules and difference between the declarative rules is first thing. Okay, so decision, so means decision making based on the condition we are defining under the decision rules. So what are the inputs given based on the inputs given by the end user, so it will make decision making will happen here. Okay, so for example, these decision rules, so we have to define condition separately. We have to define the condition separately, means using the decision table or decision tree, map value, or when condition. Okay, so all these are decision rules only. So we will define decision table or decision tree or map value or when condition separately, and call the condition. We have to call this condition, so then only so this condition will be applied. Okay, and how to call this condition and how many ways we can call this condition means, if you take the first three rules, these decision table, decision tree, and map value, we can call these conditions in three different ways. Okay, we can call these conditions in three different ways, and when condition we can call in one way. Okay, so in which scenario we have to call in which rule means, so generally basically these decision table, tree, and map value we can call from flow diagram. We can call means from flows we can call these decision rules, from activity rule we can call them, and from declare expression rule we can call them. But when we have to call in under which scenario we have to call these conditions in these rules means, okay, whenever you have to configure the condition inside a flow means, so only condition if you want to call means, then we'll directly call the condition inside a flows. Okay, inside a flow rule when we will call the conditions means direct condition. Okay, so direct condition if you want to call means we will configure inside the flows, and when we have to configure these conditions in activities means along with the condition. Okay, along with the condition, if you have to define any page level expressions, I will tell you in the coming sessions, in the next sessions you'll get. If you want to define any page level expressions, then we have to go with the activity rule. Then when we will go with this declare expressions means when we will call these conditions inside declare expressions means along with the condition, if you want to define any property level expressions, then we will go with the declare expression rule. Okay, so these are the three possible ways. So where we have to define condition separately, and we have to call in any one type only. We will call either in flows or either in activities or either in declare expressions only we will call. Okay, so based on our requirement, so one condition we will define separately. So we have to configure either in flows or activities or declare expressions based on the scenario and based on the requirement. Okay, so now, and these coming to the each type here under the decision rules. Decision table is like if conditions, simple if conditions and else if conditions will be there. Okay, in the decision table format, so all the conditions will be in the format of if conditions and else if conditions. Okay, so we have to define based on our requirement. Like here maximum all the conditions are end logic. So basic logic means the basic conditions when you define in between the properties. So here we'll apply end logic will apply in the decision table. And if you take decision tree, so here all the conditions are nested if conditions only. So only there will be if conditions will be there, and we can define nested conditions here. Nested if conditions we can define. And in the decision tree, okay, within main property OR logic will apply, and within the same type of condition end logic will apply. Okay, so basically primarily, so between the property type OR logic will apply. Okay, so when I open I will show in detail. Okay, so decision table is end logic, decision tree if conditions and nested if conditions will be there, and OR logic will apply here. Then map value is also one type of condition. So these are matrix type of conditions. So matrix conditions means, so maximum we can compare only two properties here, row property and column property, and we have to map those values. So row property value and column property value matches, so automatically it will trigger the value, automatically the value will populate. Okay, that one also I'll show you. Map value conditions are matrix conditions, where we can compare row property values with column property values or column property values with row property values, and maximum we can only compare two properties only we can compare. Okay, and when condition is a simple when condition. So whenever you want to define a simple basic conditions, we can define in the when rule. Okay, so these four comes under decision rules. And we can call them in these three ways. Okay, so we'll see all the scenarios, how to define conditions and how to map in the different types of rules based on the scenario whatever we get in the application. Okay, so next coming to the declarative rules here. So the difference between the decision and declarative rules is, here declarative rules are fixed conditions. Okay, but here if you take these decision rules, for each property we can define separate conditions. Okay, so in one form we can define a separate condition, if you take other form we can define another condition for a same property. But so decision rules, so we can add for a single property we can define any type of condition, so we can define so different conditions in different forms. But here declarative rules are global, means so not global means application level, so these are fixed conditions. Suppose if you have one X property, so wherever you use that X property, suppose if so conditions will be defined at property level only, even in decision rules or declarative rules at property level we will define conditions. But inside decision rules, so those conditions are may vary from page to page. Okay, Okay, for the same property we can define multiple conditions using decision table or tree or map value. But here declarative rules are fixed conditions. So once if you define any declare expression rule, so throughout the application the condition is fixed here. Okay, and one more thing is, so once we define any condition for any property, either it is expression rule or constraints or on change, so those conditions no need to call anywhere. So once we define condition at property level, so automatically these conditions will be called at property level. Means wherever we use this X property, it will automatically trigger the expression, it will automatically trigger the validation. Actually this is one type of validation, and it will automatically trigger the business logic in the declare on change. Like this, declarative rules are fixed conditions and there is no need to call these conditions in any other rule. So wherever we use the property directly, automatically, so based on the inputs given and condition given, it will directly call the condition and get the results. Automatically it will get the results. Okay, so there is no need to call these declarative rules in any other rule. Okay, so once we define any condition under declare expressions for any property, so automatically they will trigger the declarative rule. Okay, so but decision rules means we will define the condition separately and we have to manually call that condition. So then only this condition applies to the properties. If you don't call this condition in any other rule, there is no use adding the condition here. Okay, once after adding a condition, we have to call that condition in any of these rules. Okay, so generally in the flows, if you take a decision shape is the shape used to call in the flow diagram. In the flow diagram we will use decision shape to call the conditions, and actually we'll be having some types will be there. If you want to call decision table means we have to select decision table. So if you want to call decision tree means we will call decision tree, we have to select as a type. For map value, and for when condition the type will be fork will be there. Okay, not directly when will not be there. If you want to call a when condition, fork option will be there. So like this 4 types will be there. So based on that we have to select the decision shape, and on the type we have to mention the type of rule. And inside activity, so activity generally we'll use methods. Okay, so we'll use the method names. And coming to the method names, so property map a decision table is the method for calling decision tables, and property map decision tree is method for calling decision trees, and property map value or property map value pair is the method for calling map value conditions. And we cannot call the when conditions inside activity, so only when condition we can only call from the flow diagrams only, because directly inside activity rules by default when conditions are there, so they didn't give any option to call when conditions separately in the activity rule, because already when you open any activity and any method parameters, not method parameters, so generally we have jump condition which is a when condition, precondition which is a when condition. So again no need to define any when condition separately in the activity rule, so no option available to call when condition separately in the activity rule. Okay. Next, so next way is declare expressions. Inside declare expressions rule will be having functions will be there. Okay, we'll be having some functions. So function names will be like this: results of decision table, results of decision tree, and results of map value. So using these functions we can call the conditions inside declare expressions. Okay, so now we will see one example. So first of all I will show how to define a condition, and in tomorrow's first session I'll see how to call inside a flow diagram. Okay, in today's session I'll show you how to add a condition using the decision table. I'll show you today. Okay, so first of all, so for which type of properties, means we have to take the properties here. Okay, so for this example I'm going to take the banks class here. Okay, so other type of conditions I'll define in the Paytm in the next sessions. So first of all, in order to show how the conditions will work, I'm going to use the banks class and I'm going to add few properties here. Okay, so let's define some properties like employee name, employee salary, loan amount, and loan type properties. So under the loan type, define some static data like home loan, auto loan, personal loan. Okay, so define some static data for the loan type property. Okay, so first of all, define these properties, and inside the bank class I'm using this scenario. Create properties, give data type, click on next. Okay, so open loan type and define some static values. Under display and validation, under table type select local list. First value I'm giving a caption. Okay, I'm giving two types, home loan and auto loan. Save this property. Now create a section for this. Okay, use any type of layout. Okay, you can use any one, smart, freeform or anything. Okay, so drag these property names. And for the loan type, just give any control. Means control means either drop down or radio button. I'm selecting as drop down. Okay, save this form. Okay, for salary and loan amount, change the alignment. Just a text alignment will be right by default, change to left side. save this form, create a fly action, okay. So now we'll define a condition. Okay, so define condition from the decision category. So under that select, first of all we'll define a decision table. Okay, so decision table, so if conditions, by default you'll get first condition as if condition, then from the second condition all the conditions are else if conditions. Okay, so on like this. What are the requirement you get? So what are the requirement, based on that you can define hundreds of else if conditions and so on. Finally you'll be having otherwise option. Okay, so and here for each condition, okay, what are the if condition or else if condition, each type of condition. So what are the condition you are selecting? For every condition we have to give some result. For each condition we have to give some result. So the result can be same or it can be different. That is also based on the scenario and based on the requirement. And finally you will have otherwise option. So otherwise option, we will not define any condition, directly we will define the result. Okay, so I'll show you. So once I open the condition, I'll show you how the execution will happen. I'll show you. So first of all, under the class, you go to decision category, select decision table, okay, and give some label, so means condition name. Okay, so by default you'll get the table like this, and we need to add columns here. Okay, so before adding the conditions, what is the properties, for which properties we are going to define the conditions, we have to list all the property names. Okay, suppose you can define for one property, you can define for two properties, three properties. Okay, again based on that requirement we can define one property minimum and maximum any number of properties in the column. Means in the table column source, in the table column we have to include all the property names. Okay, here in this scenario I'm going to take first property as based on the loan type property, which is a primary property. Based on the loan type I'm going to define the conditions. Then I will select salary. Then next property I will take loan amount. Okay, so for all these properties I will define the conditions in each type. Okay, means in the conditions we have a conditions column here. So first of all we'll define the property names. So click on anywhere in this column, it will open this dialog box. We can select the property name in the drop down. Okay, so first I'm taking loan type, and condition I'm giving as equal to. Okay, loan type, if loan type is equal to, so click on save. And next we have to add one more column because I want to define another property. Suppose if you highlight anywhere in this row here, so in the top of the here all the options get highlighted. So now here we have an option called insert column after. Select this option. So again we'll get one more column and we can add the next property. next property I'm taking as salary, but I'm not giving equal to here. I'm giving some specific range I'm setting here for this property. Okay, if you enable this use range option, I'll get a options like starting range greater than equal to and end range is less than equal to. Okay, I'm going to give some conditions within some range for this salary property. Click on save, and next define add one more column, and this time I'm selecting loan amount, and for the loan amount also I'm going to use the range option. Then click on save, and range I'm setting as greater than and less than. Okay, apart from greater than, equal to and less than equal to, you'll get greater than and less than. Okay, if you want any which condition is, which type of range is suitable, you can give that one. Okay, so like this we'll define the structure of the table first, then we have to set the conditions. Okay, so in the if condition, by default first of all we'll get if condition, and coming to the return option here we have to specify the result for each. Okay, this total set is one condition, so if condition is there, right? So for the loan type we will select the type, salary will give some range, for loan amount we will set some range, and in the return option we will specify some result. Okay, suppose if you want to add some fixed results, means go to results tab. Okay, so in the allowed results we can set some results. Okay, so allowed results, I'm going to set some results here. So I'm giving some results as approve, click on add a row, reject, some changes happening. Okay, in the third row I'll give some other result like require manager approval. Okay, I'm giving some short form for that. If you want to give any full form you can give that one. Okay, I'm setting 3 results here, but it's not mandatory. This option is not mandatory. The thing is, if you set the allowed results here, what happens means by default in the return option in the drop down you can see all these values, or else if you want to set manually, means we can manually also we can type the result name in the drop down. Okay, result name in the return option. Okay, it's not mandatory, this is just an optional thing. If you want to set the results in the results tab, you can set like this. If you don't want to set also, not an issue. If you don't want to set, means directly in the return option manually we can type the result, but if you set, means you'll get in the drop down. If you are not setting, means manually we have to type the result. Okay, that is the only difference. It's your wish. If you want to add the results, means in the results tab we can add, or directly also we can enter the result option here. Okay, so first of all, coming to conditions here, so we have a loan type as home loan and auto loan is there. Okay, so in a same condition, if you want, we can define conditions for both the types. Okay, so first of all I'm going to take home loan, loan type as home loan, and I will define few set of conditions here. Okay, give some input range here. Okay, general in the real time we'll get a specifications. Accordingly we have to configure the conditions here. So here I'm giving my own inputs and conditions. Okay, so for this I'm giving the result as approve for this first condition. Now click on insert row after. From second condition you will get else if option. I'm taking home loan only. I'm giving result as require manager approval. See, like this in real time is so many conditions will be there, some hundreds of 50 to 100 conditions will be there, but I'm giving some few conditions here. Okay, now add one more row, and in the same table we can also define for auto loan also, or we can also add separate condition, or else within the same decision table also we can define conditions for auto loan. Okay, and see, after adding all the conditions, otherwise option will be there, but we cannot define any conditions, but we can set some result. Okay, so otherwise we will not define any conditions. So now after saving this condition, generally the execution, how the execution will happen means, see, first of all, even though if you select auto loan here in this decision table, okay, so by default the execution will start from the if condition, it will start. Okay, even though in the application form if you select auto loan also, in the backend it will start executing from the if condition only. Okay, it will check the first condition, means in a decision table it will check single condition one after another. For example, if the first condition itself is true, means it will return this result and it will stop executing the remaining conditions. From the second condition it will not execute. If the first condition itself is true, means if first condition is false, then it will jump to the next condition. If second is false, it will jump to the next condition. So like this, step by step, line by line, it will check each condition. Even though if you give the inputs related to this condition, from condition 1 it will check all the conditions, and any of the above, all these conditions are not matching with the inputs given by the end user, means it will directly execute the result in the otherwise option. So if, because it should specify, say within home loan and auto loan, end logic will apply, and also within loan type, employee salary and loan amount also end logic will apply. Okay, means both the three conditions, loan type must be home loan, salary must be in between this range, and loan amount must be in between this range. So when all these three are satisfied, it will return this result. Okay, only loan type and employee is satisfied and loan amount is not within this range, means then it will check for the other conditions, and other conditions are also not matching with the given input, means then in the result, in the otherwise option, what are the results we have, it will reject, it will enter that result like this. So within the loan type, is a primary property. Within home loan and auto loan, and logic will apply, and also within each condition type also and logic will apply. But if you take a decision tree, so generally there within the loan type or condition will apply. Okay, if I select home loan in a decision tree, it will only execute conditions for the home loan. If I select auto loan in a decision tree, so it will only execute this auto loan conditions only, means which condition type is suitable for us. Okay, just here I want to show you that. So in this format also we can define, but so which is most suitable and which is purposeful, so we have to go with that conditions. Okay, but when I explain about the decision tree, then you can understand. So which type of condition is more suitable, we have to go with that condition, because for a same properties we cannot define both the conditions, right? So decision tree and decision table for same conditions will not use. Either we'll go with the decision table, or we'll go with the decision tree, or map value will go. Okay, so here in this scenario, which is most purposeful and which is most suitable, we'll go with that conditions. Okay, so if it is a decision table, will define like this, condition will define like this. But if you are not calling this condition from anywhere, means there is no use. Even though you define this condition here for these properties, if you are not calling this condition from any rule, means so there is no use of adding this condition. So in the next step, okay, in the next step I will show you how to configure this condition from the flow diagram. I'll show in the next session. It will take some time. I need to configure the entire flow, and I have to map in the flow diagram. This condition I have to map in the flow diagrams. Okay, so for that we will be using the decision shape, and we can call this condition inside the decision shape properties. Okay, so like this we'll define condition separately, and wherever this condition we have to use, whether in flow diagram or in activity rule or in declare expressions, so where you want to use this condition, accordingly we have to call this condition in that particular rules. Okay, so how to call them and how to use these conditions in the application, we'll see in tomorrow's session. Okay, so in tomorrow we have a session. Okay, so same time. Okay, any questions? Yes, tell me. Okay, what is that issue? Okay, so log off and rejoin again.